When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo.
What's up everybody, Sam Smyers here. Today I want to show you how I made my latest song Tempo with D-Love. Now before we get started, if you're watching this video, then you're probably seen some of my other videos, and if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and also please go ahead and give this video a like to help with that YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go and jump right into it. So I would classify this track as like commercial EDM. I think it's heavily influenced by like Tiesto or Loud Luxury. So if you listen to the vocals, they're really brightly mixed and they have that just like pop record feel. So basically D-Love sent me a demo and then I worked off of that demo. Let me just play you a few sections of the track, and you can skip through this if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, or check it out on Spotify. And hopefully this doesn't skip too much as I play it or get any glitches, but let's just go ahead and start from, let's say, the beginning.
When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting loco, but I'm all going low. Why you move on in slow-mo? You can't keep up with my pace. Now you say you're sorry, but I know you don't mean it. I'm your one and only. Hit my line when you're lonely, don't entertain it. When you're acting phony, wanting me to be in your control. Baby, you thought you could tame it. Now you're the one acting emotional. 'Cause baby, I know you can take it. When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting loco, but I'm all going low. Why you move on in slow-mo? You can't keep up with my pace. Da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. You can't keep up with my pace. Da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. You can't keep up.
And now I just want to play you parts of the demo so you can hear the changes that I made. And when I heard the demo, a lot of times when people send me demos, I listen to the chorus, make sure the vocals, there's some kind of really good hook. And I think for when D-Love sent me this demo, I liked the bass a lot in the drop. And then also the drums, I thought sounded pretty good. So let's just go ahead and listen to parts of this demo.
Now you say you're sorry, but I know you don't mean it. I'm your one and only. Hit my line when you're lonely, don't entertain.
So you can hear I completely changed that part up. And then I also pitched up the song one semitone just to give it a little bit more energy. Like the vocals sounded maybe a little too chill. And sometimes if you like pitch them up more or like pitch them down, this is a really popular technique for like commercial EDM, is playing around with the tuning of the vocals or like whatever octave or pitch they're in.
Now you're the one acting emotional. 'Cause baby, I know you can take it. When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I
So you can hear that part is really similar. I think the second half had a lot of like piano chords in the second half of the demo. So I ended up changing that part a lot. So let's just go ahead and go through it. Now, I don't know how the best way to do like radio edits and extended versions, but what I did for this song is once I had my radio edit, I just duplicated everything over later on in the session and made my extended edit so that if I ever need to make any changes to like a specific track in the radio edit, that it would also make the changes to the extended edit. I was doing it in like two separate sessions, but then that got annoying because if I wanted to make like a small little change on like a radio edit, then I have to go back and open my extended edit and make the same little change. So my whole like session here, it's like 8 minutes long. But so the tempo is 124. I have my references up at the top. I have all of my groups. My groups I have, let's see, 1, 2, the effects. I think I just used the effects stem that D-Love sent me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I usually try to keep it to like 5 groups. The drums group, I have some processing going on, bus compression, soft clipping with the K-clip, some EQ. Let's check out all the drums. I have some like impacts for ear candy, and just to get into like different sections of the verse and the pre-chorus. And let me just play you this. So you hear those two impacts, I'll solo them. just to get into the next section. So I could have put these in like another effects group, but I just put them in the drums. And let's see, here's just like another effect here. Let's listen to this. Let's check it out in context.
And you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the
It's kind of like a really cool way to add a little bit of a white noise into the drop where it comes in like not exactly on that first beat, but on the second downbeat. Now for the kick group, I have my kick for the verse separate from the drop. A lot of times I'll do that. I'll separate the kick verse from the kick drop because I like to make it a lower level, and then I'll do like EQing stuff or just automating the EQ.
when you're lonely, don't entertain it.
So there's that kick, and then let's listen to the kick in the drop. So a lot louder, and you can hear brighter because I don't have the EQ filter on that kick. And then just like for the pre-chorus, doing some quickly building up with the kick. And then let's see, there's a little fill for that second drop. Let's check out that second drop.
When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo.
So pretty nice fill just to bring it back into that second drop when I have a little more elements in that second drop. And a lot of times for the first drop, you can usually just start out with like the kick and the bass.
Solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying.
And then build in all the elements. And then by the time you get to the second drop of your song, you don't have to really build into having all those drop elements. You can just bring them all in at once. And that helps you just give some variation between the two drops. So I just have some hat percussion, got some like rim knocks just to add some rhythms to the drums. Always just trying to be like smart about adding ear candy and rhythms and filling in spaces. Have some claps. Let's check out the claps. So those are the claps. Here's some reverse claps. And let's check out that with the clap. Here's a little clap verb. So basically for that track, I just duplicated this, put this on a new track, added like 100% reverb, and then bounced it as just freezed and bounced it down to audio so that I could manipulate that reverb.
Keep up with my face.
And got some, let's see, tight crashes. So just adding in fills. Let's see, 22. Okay, that is nothing. And got some more crashes, some hi-hats. Let's check out the hi-hats. So let's check out all the drums together now in the drop so we can hear them all together. So you can hear all the little elements that I'm doing there just to make the drums a bit more interesting. Got the little percussion there, have the reverse claps, have the reverb on the long claps, have these little rim knocks just to kind of add some groove here and there for that drum element. So then as we get into the second verse, relatively similar in the second verse, just have some more drums going on, and I think have some like, tambourine reverbs. There you hear the effects getting into another section. You have some reverb tambourine little hits there just to make it a bit more interesting. Let's check it out in context.
See me go 180, moved on so quick it's scary. Right in the fast lane now. Wanting me to be in your.
So let's move into the bass group. So for the bass group, I got some compression on the bus, a little bit of EQ, just taking out some mid-range mud out of that bass, and then of course the kickstart, adding in that like sidechain compression. Let's see, we've got some Reese Bass going on. This is probably something that either D-Love sent me or I did in Serum. It's pretty quiet because I have some guitars on top of that.
When you like them phony, wanting me to be in your control.
But let me walk you through the bass. So basically, D-Love did the bass. I like the bass, how it sounded. So this is the bass. And then I layered that bass, I duplicated that, and then I added on a guitar rig amp layer. So let's see, I think this is adding a bit more width. So some of that like slappiness from the top end I'm adding on, and then I think I'm adding on like a wide layer on top of that. So I'm using the doubler to add on this like wide layer. And then we just have like the sub layer. So let's check out all the basses together. And then there's a little reverse bass, which I believe was from D-Love. Don't think I did anything much to that part. There's like a little sub drop for like a transition as well. And that's really it for the basses. I have the slap bass coming in the pre-chorus relatively quietly. I'm doing some automation. So let's check out how it sounds in the pre-chorus.
Now you're the one acting emotional, 'cause baby I know you can take it when you see me.
And you can hear it layered nicely underneath the guitar that's just kind of going throughout the verse and that pre-chorus. So let's get into some of the instruments. Let's see, here's a little string melody. Let's check this out, what this is. That was like a little string layer that is copying the melody of the vocal. I put in the second drop to give it some variation, and that is just going to be Kontakt. And let's just hear it in context.
You can't keep up with my face.
Just to like change up that drop a little bit in the second part of the second drop. Here's like a one-shot synth. High string. Here's some stabs. Like some cream style stabs. Let's check out the serum. I think it's probably from my serum preset pack. So yeah, it's just like from my, I believe one of my deluxe collection serum preset packs. You can grab that sound. And that's a nice synth to add like a melody in the second part of the drop.
You can't keep up with my pace.
And let's check out this part. So that synth is copying the melody of the vocals. And sometimes like if you want to add a bit more like oomph to your vocals, you can layer them with a synth kind of under the vocals that's copying the melody exactly. So that's just what I'm doing there for that that part, because I felt like it was kind of weak the way that, so that's kind of like why I try to add in some more melodies with these little plucks and these cream stabs just to make that a bit more interesting, because it's kind of, it just used a lot of the da-da-da sound in drops and stuff. It can get kind of boring. So sometimes it just helps to add in some more like counter melodies, things like that. So now for the guitar, I actually didn't even play the guitar. I programmed it in Kontakt. So I just kind of use like a palm muting straight eighths type of rhythm. And I'm doing some variations to the velocity here to make it sound a bit more natural. And I'm using the Session Guitarist Electric Sunburst Deluxe, the melody, and muted. And so I was just kind of like being lazy. I play guitar, but sometimes I'll just like use this because it'll sound a lot cleaner to get like a pretty clean guitar sound. And it's just maybe a little bit faster than plugging in a guitar and like doing all that and then like editing it and just making sure it's all in time. So I just use this to do the guitar. And if you keep it in the synth form or keep the MIDI, then these type of libraries, they'll add in like variation to each of the notes. So each time you'll play it back, it'll have some kind of different variation on some of the notes because they try to make it sound like realistic. So it helps to bounce it down so that you can kind of lock in how everything sounds. So it helps to bounce it down into like an audio track. And it also helps to, with your like CPU and stuff, because these Kontakt libraries can take up a lot of like CPU on your computer. So let's just check out how this guitar sounds.
You're the one acting emotional, 'cause baby, I know you can take it when you see me.
And that guitar is like a main element of the verse and the pre-chorus. And that's just like a really simple saw wave pad sound that I put in the verses just to fill in some of the emptiness, or just kind of fill in like the empty spaces in that verse. So let's just solo some parts of the instruments. And let's check out what I got on that bus. So I've got a compressor, some EQ. I like to use the Ozone 9 exciter just to add some more excitement to my instruments. I'm using the SPL Vitalizer to add some stereo expansion. I'm using the Ozone 9 imager for some stereo width. And let's see, what is this? Oh, this is for I think I do some automation getting into the pre-chorus into the drop. So just some very slight automation with that endless smile. Those are the instruments in the pre-chorus. Those are some of the instruments in the drop. And then I just have this effects stem that D-Love had from his original demo. And I'm not too picky about like white noise risers and sweeps, so I just use the stem and cut it up in certain places where I feel like I didn't need it. So this is just kind of like all the white noises. Let's just listen to this real quick. So yeah, just random white noises and effects. Now let's check out the vocals. So for the vocals, I'm using some of the SPL Vitalizer just to make it more, excite the vocals more, make them brighter. I really wanted these vocals to be super, super bright and very, very poppy. Got some Soothe 2 on the bus, and let's just see some slight EQing on the vocal bus. So these are all of the doubles.
When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo.
And I'll break down the processing on my lead vocal because I usually just process the lead vocal and then copy and paste the processing onto the other tracks if they're just sung by the same vocalist. So let's check out the lead vox verse. Let's check out this pre-chorus. So this is what it sounds like dry.
Wanting me to be in your control. Baby, you thought you could tame it.
So you can hear they need some work on making them more bright. And I already tuned these with Melodyne. But sometimes even if they're tuned with Melodyne, you can add on auto tune just to make sure that it's you really, really puts them in tune. And also this adds like a bit of a feel to the vocals. Like whenever your vocals change notes, it adds a bit of like more smoothness to the vocals. So a lot of people are really used to, they don't realize it like when people are listening to songs, but most people are really used to the sound of auto-tune on vocals. So I'll a lot of times just like put auto-tune on the vocals even if they're already tuned. All right, so let's turn all these on one by one. Let's add on a low cut EQ and then my two compressors. So this 1176 style, the LA2A style compressors.
Wanting me to be in your control.
Then I've got the Soothe 2 on, just to take out any harshness.
Wanting me to be in.
Now I'm starting to add in the brightness, so I've got the CLA vocals, just using the treble and the compress.
Wanting me to be in your control.
And then just doing some EQing, taking out some of that low end. There's still some of that mid-low range in that vocals I didn't want, adding some more brightness in the top end.
Wanting me to be in your control.
And then after that, I'm adding in my DS. So I'm doing the Pro DS. I'm adding in my DS-er, so I'm adding the Pro DS. Then I'm doing some vintage style EQing with the SIEQ, CQ.
Wanting me to be in your control.
And you can hear that is kind of what is adding a lot of that brightness and that saturation from the brightness. And so what you can do after you add in like a de-esser, you can add in, just to bring some of that brightness back, you can add in another EQ or saturator. And I'm using this like vintage EQ because it's adding some saturation in along with the brightness of the EQ because I'm bumping in this high knob up. And then after that, add in another DS, and then I've got my effects, got 2 reverbs, hall, plate, reverb, and echo. And that is it. Let's check it out.
Wanting me to be in your control. Baby, you thought you could tame it. Now you're the one acting emotional.
So very, very wet sound on that vocal. I'm using a hall, pretty long hall reverb. So like 4 seconds on my Pro R. And because of that, I'm using the track spacer just to duck the vocals when they're singing, like the dry vocals. And then when there's like empty spaces, it comes back up in volume. So this is like just using this track spacer to sidechain the dry vocal, the wet vocal to the dry vocal.
Wanting me to be in your control. Baby, you thought you could tame it.
So that wet reverb doesn't muddy up the vocals too much. So that's basically the processing for the vocals. And then for the chorus vocal, I have this chorus dimension expander because I wanted to give them a bit of a chorusy effect.
Solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting loco, but I'm not going low, why you move on?
Maybe just to make them feel like a bit more kind of robotic or electronic, because I'm layering those vocals with this like low vocal sound.
Solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting loco, but I'm not going.
And then I have my little vocal effects group, which basically I will take the end of a word and put like 100% delay or 100% reverb on it. So there's like a chord note delay on that end of a word tempo. And basically this is kind of like something that makes the difference between like amateur vocal mixes and pro mixes, is kind of adding in these little vocal throws, these little vocal reverb delays, these swells in between little endings of words. A lot of times you'll hear in like little extra reverbs or delays. And so the easiest way that I found to do this was just to put them on new tracks. You could put in like a reverb or a delay on your vocal, on your main vocal, and just like automate it. But I like to just copy and paste sections of the vocal and then add in like 100% wet reverb or delay on top of those tracks. So these are like, I got one for chord note delay, like a panning hall reverb. Let's check this out. And that's got like Kickstart 2 on it, so it's kind of got that like pumping effect. And then for the intro vocals, I just took the chorus vocals and filtered them a bit. And these are also the ending vocals.
When you see me going solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting low.
So the only real difference was that I just used that EQ8 to filter them off to make them sound a bit more vibey. So let's check out some of those vocals all together.
Solo, I pull up in my Lambo, yeah, I increase the tempo. You thought I'd be crying, acting loco, but I'm out going low, why you move on in slow-mo? You can't keep up with my pace. Da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. You can't keep up with my pace. Da-da.
And I want to talk about this. I actually made this harmony because there wasn't any harmonies. So I just made this harmony in Melodyne. I just took the original vocal and found what the harmony would be in Melodyne and pitched it.
You can't keep up with my pace.
So by itself, it obviously doesn't sound that great, but in the mix, let's check it out.
You can't keep up with my pace. Da-da.
Let's just check out the mastering now. So for the utility plugin, I have the bass in mono at 180 Hertz, just putting everything in mono and the bass, using my solid bus compressor. And on my bus compressors, I've this link LR is usually turned on. I've been turning it off lately on my mixes. So in my bus compression, I've been turning off the link LR because I saw a video like Chris Lord-Alge saying that he doesn't link any of his stereo compression stuff because he wants it all to be like fluctuating between the stereo channel. I don't know. I thought that was like interesting. I never really thought about it. So I just have been doing that now. And got my K-Clip 3. I like using this for just soft clipping, catching any peaks that made their way through past the compressor. I'm using the Ozone Exciter. When I use this and when I bounce this down, I turn on the oversampling. It's turned off now just for the purposes of going through this video. Then I'm using the stereo expansion on this vitalizer and a bit of processing, just making it a bit brighter. And also the Pro Q, just slamming the brick wall. Pro Q, cutting off anything below 20 hertz and above 20 hertz because you can't hear that. And might as well just cut it off because you don't need it. And then the Pro L2, using potentially super loud. I'll turn on the oversampling at like 4 times, but turn it off for going through this video to help with my CPU. And let's just check it out without the mastering.
I'm going low, low while you move on in slow-mo. You can't keep up with my pace.
Now, obviously, it's a lot quieter, but let's just add on the limiter because just the limiter, we can hear what it's doing. It's just making it louder.
No go, but I'm going low, low while you move on in slow-mo. You can't keep up with my pace.
Now you can hear the mix is really similar. So it's all really mainly about the mixing, getting that mix right. And then you can just add in some extra processing on that master just to clean things up. But ultimately, it's all about getting that mix right. Let me just play it now with all of the processing other processing aside from the limiter that I did.
No go, but I'm going low, low while you move on in slow-mo. You can't keep up with my pace. You can't keep up with my pace.
So ultimately, I just kind of brightened it up a bit with saturation and using the vitalizer, using the exciter, and just kind of adding a bit more compression. So that was all I did for the mastering. Ultimately, it comes down to just getting your mix right. And then once I had the master down how I wanted it, I did some automation to the actual master level, just so that there was like more impact when you get into the drops. So I have the master level on the drops at 0 dB and then like -1 dB during the verses and the pre-chorus, so that when that drop hits, there's more impact. And that's a technique you can do if your mix is sounding a bit static, like if you're compressing everything and have everything limited, and you want to have a bit more dynamic range or a feeling of dynamic range, you can automate the level of your master to something below 0 dB. Like for the verses, you can go lower than -1, you can go to like -2. But when you put it up to 0 dB, just don't go above 0 dB or you'll just be clipping your master. Unless you want to intentionally clip your master, then you can do that. So then here is the extended mix part, and that's basically the track. So that about does it for how DeLove and I made Tempo. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. And if you'd like to check out any of my singer preset packs, I'll put links down below for those as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.